This is going to be long, and if you don't like my pauses, I totally sympathize, but they're going to be here. So this is for my hardcore subscribers. And for me, I've lost days trying to get started vlogging again. I was able to get out the Night of the Living Dead DVD announcement video, but I forget how long I've been away from YouTube. At first it was because I was busy cutting the behind the scenes stuff and the extras for Night of the Living Dead for the DVD. And then it was because I just needed a rest, and then it was because I just didn't want to hear my own voice. And every time I sat down to do a vlog, I ended up watching YouTube instead of doing one, or taking a nap. And I've got a whole, as I've said before, I have so many topics that I want to do that it oppresses me. It's not like what can I talk about, it's like what order should I try to get through the giant list. By my count, I owe videos to Marisha Kay, who may be gone from YouTube now, I'm not sure. Mr. Morton Blogs, Trail of Dead, in Adventure Industries. Even if you don't remember me making some little peep about how, oh, I want to talk about that, I owe one to Paul's Ego. I also I desperately want to get in on this whole class war and atheists solving Mexico's problems topic of a week ago. But of course that would involve getting involved with the you-know-whos, which I actually sort of want to, but if I do that, a lot of this other stuff's not going to get done. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do when if I finally start churning these out more regularly. And I got a bunch of Alan Watts stuff I want to do. I kind of want to beat the whole Alan Watts horse to death until I feel like I've gotten to the essence of why I brought him up in the first place in the context of YouTube atheism, but not now. I've been evading doing these by watching videos, as I said, and although I am blocked by Fake Sagan, so I've been pretty much ignoring him, and I don't want to be driven into paroxysms of wanting to answer back, so I haven't been watching the videos he makes that are obvious provocations. But I watched the first 3 of his answer videos, and it just reminded me that he, like The Amazing Atheist, is somebody that I ended up fighting with precisely because I thought he had a good side, and I was really impressed by his good side. And at least in the first 3 of those things, there was a hell of a lot more of the good side than the bad side. But that's not what I want to talk about. So I'm sitting here saying, how the fuck am I going to get over my vlogger's block and get started again? How can I talk without pausing? How can I say things precisely using the right words? What am I going to do first? Should I talk about gun control? Should I talk about what I was going to talk about with Mr. Morton? No. I landed on a Rabid Ape video, which turned out to be a response to Fake Sagan, although that wasn't in the title. And this is not a reply to that either. It just inspired me. Rabid, you've left some comments to me, and I've left some comments to you, but we've never really clicked. I can't quite. I don't know. I don't quite get you. But that's not the topic of this either. In your video, which I've forgotten the name of at this moment, and I'm not going to look it up, your latest video, oh, get the fuck off the planet, right. You are arguing against what I assume is Fake Sagan's opinion. I didn't see the video you were replying to, that humans are nothing special, that they're just another animal, and you are arguing that we are special because of our intellect, which I agree with. I mean, special is a word that can have a lot of meanings, and and I don't mean special in the biblical sense, but you make the argument that one of our virtues over other animals is that our brains give us advanced survival capabilities, and when the planet is destroyed or when the sun burns out, we will have advanced to the point where we can get off the planet and go on surviving, and that this is one of our virtues. And this just kind of set off a little thing in my head. So I had to cut. I got completely off topic. The topic is the value, the intrinsic value of survival, the absolute value of survival. I maintain that there is no such thing. We, human beings, have a desire to survive, and we should honor that because we are human beings. We're not rocks, we're not trees, we're not robots, we're not gods. We live in the human dimension, and that's where it matters to us that we survive, not outside of that. And I think this is like an important point to be made within the YouTube atheist community, within the atheist community at large, for that matter, because I constantly see people importing absolutes from theism and not questioning them. The virtue of survival is innate to our human makeup, because those humans, in a simplistic form, because those humans who didn't have a strong instinct for survival died out, and the ones with an instinct for survival survived. I mean, there's no morality involved in that. The morality is a rationalization within our human sphere, but even within our human sphere, there isn't automatically an instinct for survival, not an absolute instinct for survival. It's mixed in with the instinct to go toward death, maybe, Freud's death wish. I don't really know too much about Freud's theories, so I really shouldn't talk about it. But certainly, human beings value willing death too, and I guess this is why the little button went off in my head, because one of the things that clangs on me is the current vogue in atheism to attribute suicide bombing to religious ideas, that these people have been brainwashed into killing themselves by religious ideas. And I maintain that they kill themselves for human reasons, because religion and humanity, up until this time, and I would say for the foreseeable future, always go together. They're always around together. So it's kind of pointless to try and imagine that an intellectual rationalization of human beings for their behaviors and a focusing of their behaviors is responsible for their behaviors. Where this is like demonology. The ideas coming in from some other place. Where do atheists get off? Having that attitude toward ideas. They come from people, and here in the United States, leaving off the atheism aspect of it, we're all exercised about the inhuman insanity of suicide terrorists, because they're being used against us right now. And it was the same in World War II when the kamikazes were used. And there's no doubt that both the Japanese culture, pre-war Japanese culture, and certainly Japanese culture during World War II had had an aspect that created an extraordinary number of people who were willing to, or were willing to give their lives for their country or their emperor, their god emperor, or at least were susceptible to being socially bullied into killing themselves. And that's certainly true of a lot of Muslim cultures right now, or some Muslim cultures. But I also, I'm an aged YouTuber, and I grew up during a time when there was the age of the sentimentalized suicide mission. In the 60s, there were lots of movies and books and what have you about, red-blooded Americans of various stripes going on suicide missions, and it was like a good example of the best that humanity has to offer by the endless World War II movies. Maybe it was Kamikaze Envy. I don't know. A sneaking suspicion that you're not as good as the people who are willing to die for their cause, and so there were a lot of movies like that. That's the way I felt about the movie 300. I saw it as animated by suicide bomber envy, but that's another topic. The point is, every human society, including, I would imagine, the atheist culture, if we can be said to have a culture, values the occasional person who's willing to die for the good of the community. I vividly remember Robert Heinlein, the science fiction author, in an essay that he wrote. I can't remember, it may have had something to do with defending himself against critics of Starship Troopers, but he was basically defending godless humanism against godless collectivism in a weird... Actually, I can't really remember. I shouldn't put words in Heinlein's mouth. But he related the story, either apocryphal or he claimed it was true, of this bum, this alcoholic bum at a small town picnic who gave his life, who was killed by a train saving a little kid from being hit by the train, and he held this out as an example of the best in humanity, and certainly, it had that nice tragic dimension, the whole Tale of Two Cities aspect, where the guy whose life is worthless, he's a fucking alcoholic bum, gives it for the promise of some young child. And this too, I think, is hardwired into the human species. In some, hardwired is a bad term, but I'm not going to parse it at this point. It's the instinct to die for the good of others is built into the human species, I believe, in some way that I don't really, understand all the contours of. Who does? Nobody. But it's built in, I think, in some ways like homosexuality. Like homosexuality, it's counterintuitive from a natural selection point of view. How could homosexuals be part of a culture where part of a species where the whole point is to survive by procreating, right? And how could creatures who would give their lives not only, I'm talking off the top of my head, and I'm catching myself with every breath saying something that I should have done a little more research about, or should have thought through before I started talking. But basically, lots of people talk about how, the parent who dies for their kid or their kin, that's a good genetic advantage, because, once you've had your kids, from a natural selection point of view, you've done your bit, and the only aspects of your behavior after that count are the ones that help in the survival of the kids, not your own. But the point of the whole thing is, it's not an absolute value. If the big meteor came out of our blind spot, where the satellites didn't see it coming, and knocked us out the way the big meteor knocked out the dinosaurs, in absolute terms, there would be no value if there would be, no human left to weep. And I wish I were more articulate. I wish I could make this point more. I wish I could make the point that I'm groping towards, and I'm not going to in this video. It's so important for us to remember that we're human beings, especially if we set our compasses toward the empirical truths of science, because it's so important to not forget that science doesn't take you out of humanity, that science is an aspect of humanity. It's all within our human dimension. Dawkins talks about the middle world, and to me the middle world is the scientific, is the human world viewed from the perspective of the scientist. The scientist looking at the tools that a scientist can use and saying, the middle world is macroscopic. You can see it with the naked eye. You can hear it, you can feel it, you can apprehend it, and the world outside that, science has showed us with special tools that we have made, but even they are part of our human world, the middle world, the human world. And every virtue of humanity is built into, seems to be built into all people everywhere. It can come out in some crazy ass ways. The Aztecs, cutting the hearts out of thousands of prisoners, whatever, and yet somehow their culture had some version of morality, and all the various isolated cultures that tend to come up with the same rules. Well, they come up with them from their humanness, but that's child's play to say. That's simple and obvious. The thing I'm groping toward that I'm not getting to is more deep than that. It's the thoughts, the laws that we have, the norms that we have. They're organic to us. They're not a technology. Even technology is organic to us. It's all part of a gestalt, if you will. And we shouldn't think of them as something we can take on or put off. Individuals feel like they can, and sometimes, they'll go out of their way to prove that they can. But I'm getting a phone call, and I'm going to just leave this. This is defiantly a Metabob vlog, because it wasn't planned and it isn't well organized, and I didn't get to my point.